Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Zach Wurtzel, and I'm one of the career development specialists at the Rockwell Career Center. Uh, I work with undergraduate marketing students, undergraduate entrepreneurship students, and undergraduate non-specialty accounting programs. We are really excited to have the TDECU recruiting team with us today, and they have a great webinar set up for us. They will do a small presentation at the beginning and then open up for question and answers. Please send questions to me at the Rockwell Career Center account on here, and I will moderate the question and answer session at the end. So please send any questions you have throughout the presentation to me, and I'll make sure they get answered. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the TDECU recruiting team.
Great. Thank you, Zach. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing us to spend a little time with you today, and certainly looking forward to the interaction and conversation. We'll do a brief introduction of the team and then kind of jump over to the presentation. And as Zach said, certainly open it up for any questions that you might have that we can certainly help you with, or try our very best to. So. My name is Sherry Osterlin. I am the Director of Recruiting with Texas Dow Employees Credit Union. I've been with the credit union almost 8 years and have been in HR and recruiting for a little over 25 years. So have a wide variety of experience, and I'm certainly honored to have two distinguished colleagues with me today. So with that, I will turn it over to Marietta Richard.
Hi, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Of course, again, like as Sherry stated, my name is Marietta. I've been with TDCU now for 4.5 years, and I have close to 20 years of recruiting experience. I've worked in a variety of positions. However, I worked from part-time driver teller all the way through branch manager all the way to now recruiting. So I look forward to interacting with each of you. Some of the names look familiar. I'm not sure of the others, but again, I look forward to answering any questions that you guys may have. And I'll turn it over to Darren.
All right, I'm Darren. I am the Senior Talent Specialist for TDECU. I'm over the majority of the sales positions that are not related to the branch. So your mortgage, wealth, insurance. All of those things are kind of covered by me, along with like business development. So I'm definitely here to help. If you guys have any questions, especially afterwards, definitely send me a message or send me an email, and I'll try to help out.
Great, wonderful. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Marietta. With that, I think we'll turn it over to our presentation. Let me pull it up for us. Okay, hopefully everyone can see the screen. And so today we just really wanted to talk about, this really is about helping you as you think about the future. So we will, let's see, there we go. So here's our contact information, and we have made this presentation available to the Rockwell Career Center team. So please don't feel like you have to take any notes, but you'll obviously be receiving this at the end of the presentation.
Yes.
So our agenda for today is just, first of all, we want to talk about the outlook and hope. We know things are very different in today's world, and this is not kind of the experience that you thought you would be having at U of H when you signed up to be part of the Cougar team. So certainly want to talk a little bit about there and just how you can really get out there and start building your network and, leveraging the tools and resources that you do have. And then also too, talking about video interviewing. This is the world that we're in right now. I know at the credit union, we are not doing on-site interviews right now, which is very different for us in terms of how we connect with our candidates. So certainly want to talk about that, and then talk a little bit about taking care of you, both financially and physically and mentally. Offer some resources for you to kind of give you that peace of mind, so that way you can focus on your studies and finding that next great role. And then at the end, we will have time for questions and answers. So, for today, it's really a new world and a new hope. There's still a lot of work to be done. It's just going to look a little different. And I think, you're in a unique position. You have great resources. The Rockwell Career Center team does a great job. They have an amazing breadth of background and experience to really help you leverage not only your career at U of H, but also going into the work world. So definitely make sure that you connect with your career counselors and all of the resources that they have to offer. And really just think about how you want to apply your strengths. I know several students have already completed their Strengths Finder, their Clifton Strengths Assessment. That's certainly a great touchstone. And really think about how you can leverage those talents. And you were made for this. A lot of the students that we've talked to and I've connected with over the years, they're not necessarily looking for the office job. So it's kind of pushed the world of work into a new territory. A lot of companies obviously have been on the leading edge of, virtual work or, flexible work environments, but then a lot of companies have not been. And so this has really forced businesses that were traditionally more on-site, face-to-face based. I know even for us, it's challenged how we deliver our products and services and connect with our members. So now's a really great time for you as an upcoming professional to leverage that. And then also too, how can you leverage your education in a new dimension? One of the things that I'm hearing from a variety of different articles is that the world is going to be very different in terms of the jobs that do come back and how they're going to, just look differently. Some jobs may go away, may alter, but then this will really open up a whole new set of types of work and types of jobs that weren't even on the radar screen, maybe even 12 to 18 months ago. Darren, Marietta, would you like to add anything to that? Or what are some of the trends that you're seeing?
What I've been doing pretty much is just kind of, as you stated, it's the new norm of doing these virtual interviews over the internet. So just basically talking to the students about that, and even scheduling a few of them just so we all can be in practice of doing it, because as you stated, it is the new norm. And I think going forward, everybody's going to start having those conversations and having those interviews, as well as some jobs may even lead to working from home. So basically that's what I've been hearing and talking to and educating the students on.
Darren, your thoughts, what are you seeing?
Yeah, just finding different ways to be different and utilizing just your information as far as like your social media and your platforms that you're on, being involved in different articles. If you see an article, responding on comments, inboxing, being involved. If you see, a webinar or something that people are hosting for free, making sure you're posting, that you're reposting that and joining the conference and participating as well. And then also making sure that you provide content. You guys have a voice. You guys have a lot of experience and you guys see things differently than a lot of people in the working world. So, and we value your opinion. So the more that you can stay active on your media platforms, the better off it is.
Absolutely. That's a great insight, Darren. Thank you.
It helps make them be more marketable that way too.
Absolutely. And that's a great transition to, it may seem a little odd, but really the best thing to do is to get out there. As Darren mentioned, getting on your social media channels, contributing to articles and discussion boards that are out there. That's really how you're going to build your network. Really, LinkedIn is a great networking tool. We'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes, but some other things you can do is volunteer. I know just near and dear to the heart of the U of H students is the volunteering and the community activism, and it's been a part of the campus life for many, many years. And I know there's a lot of people in need. So now, obviously, with taking, social distancing precautions, there's still opportunities to volunteer. And there's also online opportunities to volunteer for mentoring, for connecting with nonprofit organizations. There is a website called catchafire.org, and I'll send that to Zach, where companies and nonprofits can post projects that they need help with. Whether that's, social media projects or marketing or accounting or finance, companies can actually submit projects, kind of like an Upwork or a freelance site, and you can volunteer to work on those projects. And that's a great way for you to not only volunteer and give back during this time, but it's also a great way to learn about other opportunities and other organizations that may not have necessarily been on your traditional radar. The other thing too is mentoring, to each other and to different people in your networks. As Darren mentioned, students have a really unique perspective on the universe at hand. And so we know that we're not always going to be in this kind of in-between stage, but what does that new normal start to look like? And how can you start to shape that, not only for yourself, but for those around you? And then also too, it's a great time to create. The beauty of technology and the internet is, it's never been easier to create a TikTok video or a webinar or go live on YouTube or Facebook or Insta or whatever your favorite platform is with, whatever you're creating, whether that's, something fun and just entertaining or something that really is more educational in nature. So those are definitely opportunities that you have right now that, maybe weren't available previously. And then it's a great time to learn. I have seen so many resources available. I know being in school, you're thinking, no, not one more class. But it's a great time to learn for fun. There's a lot of online platforms, edX, Coursera, so many of these different learning platforms are offer free or trial courses, again, just to help those that might be in need or looking for a position or looking to even upskill, their basic skills and technologies. So there's a lot of great resources out there right now at your fingertips. And so sometimes I think the hard part is narrowing it down and choosing the ones that are best for you.
Sherry, just to add also, they can go into LinkedIn because LinkedIn also has quite a few training tips as well as some of those classes that you were just mentioning. And it helps build their resume as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. LinkedIn has some great material right now. Which leads to our next topic is be camera ready. When you do get that call and they're like, hey, we want to talk to you. It's as the little diagram is, it's business on the top and be on the bottom, but just be careful that you don't stand up because there was that story of that one news reporter who had shorts on and finished his news report and forgot that he was wearing his shorts. So don't be that guy. And so, again, you want to be professional, as Marietta loves to say, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. So always be mindful of your presentation, kind of what's going on behind you. I'm actually using a virtual background, so those are a lot easier to use right now. So if there's, things behind you that, are distracting, you can certainly pop in a virtual background to make sure that it's a good connection. And Marietta, do you want to walk through kind of the interview prep? Because I know that's your specialty.
Sure. Okay. Through the interview process, do your homework. And what we mean by that, and I'll try and touch on each, but for the sake of time, I'll be mindful. But you always want to, when they say do your homework, the company that you're interested in, you want to do your research. Because one of the questions that may be asked is, what do you know about our company? And if you don't know anything to say, they'll think, as a recruiter or even as a hiring manager, why would you want to work for this company if you know nothing about it? So you always want to do your homework. The recruiter versus the hiring manager, in my opinion, that as a recruiter, I work for both. I work for the candidate, I work for the hiring manager. However, we still have to try and find that medium point to where we're helping coach the candidate as well as coach the hiring manager as to what the skill sets of what they are looking for. Focus on your clear and concise answers, because when you're asked a question and you know it, the answers will flow. But if they ask you a question and you're not sure, but you're answering it in a way of how you think that hiring manager may want to hear it, it'll be noticeable. You want to have confidence when you're answering your questions, pretty much is basically what it all is. If you're saying something that they're asking you questions regarding what you know, and you answer those questions with confidence, that's the person that they want to hire. But if not, and you answer it just kind of beating around the bush, then you'll sound like you're rattling. Send thank you notes always after you've had an interview. Even if that person doesn't give you a business card, if you can, ask them for it. Or if you're attending a career fair, and it's a lot of people, because I know typically, and we know eventually going forward, we may not be able to do those things. But if you can, just find out their name, their email address, and send them a thank you email. Or if you can, mail them a thank you note. As Sherry stated earlier, if you're doing a virtual interview, look straight at the camera. Be mindful of your backgrounds. Always dress, again, like I always say, for the position you want, not the position that you have. If you want that professional position, dress professionally. And always remember, what they're looking at is what they expect going forward. And I won't go through everything, but you always want to watch your tone. You want to be mindful. You want to always smile, because you want them in that short of the time frame to see your personality, who you really are, and you want to be able to give out that information within that short time frame. Sit back from the camera. You don't want to be too close. And again, just if you have to do a test point, one of the things that I always suggest is set your laptop to where you could set up that interview, and then maybe have someone call you on the phone and look at it. And that way, once you do that test run, you could see how far of an angle you need to stand or sit, how the lighting is, and what your background looks like. A virtual background, I wouldn't say such as this one, but a virtual background always helps professionally. But I look forward to, if you guys have any questions, you want to send me emails, feel free to do that if I didn't touch on some of the questions that you guys may be thinking right now.
Marietta, one thing, what's the difference between talking to a recruiter versus talking to a hiring manager? What do I need to think about in terms of those conversations?
In my personal opinion, I would say talking to a recruiter, you can ask all the questions that you may be afraid to ask the manager. The recruiter will, in a sense, coach you, not necessarily tell you what to say, but coach you in a way of how you can word some of those questions in a professional manner. Whereas the hiring manager, they're focused on time, they're focused on what you're saying, and they're focused on getting through that interview and asking the questions that will help them determine if you're a good fit. To me, that's the difference. One coaches, and one is just basically looking at your skill set and trying to figure out if this person is a good fit for my team.
Absolutely. Thank you. Darren, anything you'd like to add to that?
Just that you need to make sure that you study the person, kind of see what their background is and where they came from. As far as, for recruiters, of course, the difference between a recruiter and a manager, in my opinion, is the manager is going to, especially in our line of business, is going to want to know like how much you know about the particular job in itself. So, and then at that point, what sets you apart? So for case example, I've come in and the manager may have said, hey, I want this guy with 2 to 5 years of experience. I want them to have, X, Y, Z. And the next thing you know, someone comes in with 3 to 6 months of experience, high energy, great questions. They knew about all of the products that they offer and asked great questions about how to apply those products or how to sell those solutions, or what the approach was. And because the managers loved the questions so much, they felt like that particular person was coachable. and then they move that candidate forward over the person who had 3 to 5 years. Because what happens when you work for a while, a lot of those little things that maybe you were open to do when you first started your career, you kind of get kind of stale and you just kind of don't remember. So when they get that new energy and they get that person that's ready to go out there and go get it, a lot of times, depending on the manager, they're ready to go and coach that particular person. So don't sell yourself short on, that person having more experience than you and all of that. It always depends on what the manager is looking for to add to that at that time. You just be your best.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Can I jump in for a second?
Absolutely.
The question I was getting about interviewing, would you say that this same advice applies to video interviewing, kind of the first round interviews that some companies are doing where you're not even talking to a person and you're talking to a computer? Any advice on those type of interviews?
If I may answer, and then everyone can, Sherry, correct me if I'm wrong. In my opinion, because they're talking to possibly the computer, I would say try and have energy when you're speaking, because they can, you can always tell when you're talking to someone on the phone if they're smiling. You can't see them, but you can tell based off, how they're responding to your answers. So I would say when you respond to a question that's asked or something you have to say, just try and keep it energized. Try and, if you have to, practice smiling, even if you have to put a mirror in front of you when you're answering the questions to look at. That way you can kind of keep it positive and upbeat. Sherry, anything I missed? Or Darren?
I would think for the on-demands, what you're referring to is the on-demand interviews. So the way those are set up is that they go in, sometimes the questions are preloaded and the candidates can go in and just answer the questions. I think energy level is key. You might even want to pretend that you're talking to the person, kind of have that person in mind. In terms of your answers, I think it gets back to what Marietta said previously is know the role, right? Know the company, have clear and concise answers. Some of those will let you record, I think maybe 1 or 2 times. So it's like if you totally bomb the first one, you can, hit the erase button and re-record. So I know some systems and platforms are a little bit more forgiving in that sense, but I think definitely being at your best, again, dress like you would for the interview. Even though you're in the comfort of your own home, make sure you have good lighting, make sure you have good connectivity, because you don't want to drop off in the middle of your answer, because it was probably the best answer. And so, really just try to relax and breathe and work through those interview questions as best as possible. Thank you, Zach, for that.
Great, thank you guys.
Absolutely. Darren, do you want to talk a little bit about LinkedIn and share some insights that you've seen on both sides?
Yeah, just with LinkedIn and the way things are changing. So they have a bunch of different features on there now to where literally, like, I can look up your LinkedIn profile, take a look at what you've done before in the past, take a look at how active you are in the article. And then when I'm calling or if I'm looking for information or emails, which is why I say always list an email and a phone number that you're not afraid to, use. When I'm looking for that information, I'll look it up and I'm able to create a profile and actually write that stuff down and take notes. So they really allow you to use it as a tool for recruiting. And it's really becoming a really, really good, top way to recruit professionals. So I would tell you to have your stuff updated. Make sure that, if there's any type of video content that you can put on there that you're showing yourself, that works well, because if I can't see you in an interview aspect, that gives me an opportunity to look at you on video and how you present yourself, and that goes a long way. And then also, if you can post your resume and be as detailed as possible on your profile, all of that information helps me look up your profile. They have a little thing called Boolean search where I'm typing in keywords. So if you don't have a lot of content on your profile, it makes it that much harder for me to find you. So I may put in, U of H and sales as my combination of what I'm looking for. Well, if you don't have anything that mentions sales in your profile, it's not going to pull up. So I may have to look through like U of H. When you're on LinkedIn, a lot of people think about, and I know there's tons of YouTube videos on how to approach people. But generally, when you approach people, just be, I hate to sound nostalgic, but just be real on there. Like, hey, I'm a student and I'm having a hard time trying to get into the industry. What did you do when you started? Or, something real. Don't have a canned message. And I know people say that all the time. Don't have a canned message. Act like you're actually talking to the person. I looked at my LinkedIn 24/7 and I try to pay attention and I try to respond to it because it comes over as like a text message. So I generally try to look at it. If it looks kind of like canned, I've got like 2 to 7 seconds to kind of look at it and be like, okay, this person is kind of sending me a canned response. So if you could just be specific, like be like, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to figure out, okay, do you guys offer internships? Or, if you guys don't offer internships, how do people get on? Like, what do they do? That generally goes a really, really long way. And people don't mind. I think they look at it better when you're at school or when you're coming out of school, as opposed to someone who may be trying to sell you something or petition you for something. But if you're just asking for general help, I think people love that. Everybody wants to help somebody. Most people, I should say.
Can I add too, Sherry? Be mindful of the email address that you use on LinkedIn. Make sure your information is updated, because an email address that looks professional helps the recruiters when we're making offers or have to speak to you in regards to sending information over to you. But if you have an email address that's not so much as professional, it kind of speaks a little bit of about your character. So you always want to make sure it's professional.
Yep.
So you mean I have to change my hot pink kitty at yahoo.com?
Yes, please do.
Absolutely. Please change
Yes.
that.
Absolutely. And another great tool that LinkedIn offers is leveraging groups and the university networking. University of Houston does a great job putting together LinkedIn groups and alumni networking groups. That's another really great resource to find out where former Cougs, landed, right? Maybe they got out of school and they took a couple different jobs and now they're at your dream company. So how did they, to Darren's point, how did they get there? What did they do? And establish those relationships. And most folks are very comfortable, sending back notes or saying, hey, thanks for reaching out. Here's what I could do. Ask for, maybe a virtual coffee, 10 to 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be a long time. But leverage the power of the LinkedIn groups out there, or you could form your own group. I know that there are some regulations and guidelines around that, but again, as long as it's professional and has a need, that LinkedIn has a lot of really great groups that you can participate in, and really leverage that. And then there's also on the backside of LinkedIn a lot of courses that you can take on personal branding. They have interviewing, how to prep your interview skills as well. So don't overlook those resources. They have some really great, you have to dig a little for them. They're not, quite on the main menu, but they're definitely available for you. So definitely take a moment to look at that. And then, certainly during this time of uncertainty, you want to be sure that you're taking care of you. We realize that a lot of students are under a lot of pressure. more so than normal. Most of the U of H students I've met are working full time and going to school and volunteering and, leading organizations. So you're normally very busy, and a lot of those things have stopped or been changed, or they're different now. So be sure to take care of you. At the credit union, we do have a COVID response page of some resources available for our members or potential members that, we can certainly help with. So if you or somebody is, in that space where they just need some help, we're certainly here to help. We're very proud to support our 345,000 members throughout Texas, really deal with this time right now. And we do have student loan support, so you can look at that on our website and see if that's something that might be a fit for you. And then we also have partnered with a company called Finergy, and we have a financial wellness tools and resources, everything from budgeting and checklists to how to think about buying a car. What does that look like for those that may be ready to buy that first house? What does that look like? So we have tools and checklists as part of that portal that are free for our members, and certainly great resources for you as well. And then we do have some partner companies that we partner with. So we have some member discounts. A lot of people know us for the Buc-ee's credit card, so you can save 10 cents on gas, which I know a lot of folks aren't driving right now, but we will be back on the road. We're getting there slowly but surely, but we do have a lot of other resources for you as a member or a potential member to really help you gain that financial peace of mind. And again, from a credit union standpoint, we are very focused on improving lives and providing solutions and resources to help you through your financial journey of success at this time. So, but thank you so much for your time. But now the fun part starts, is what's on your mind and how can we help?
Cool.
Zach?
Awesome. So when we were talking before the students came in, you mentioned asking for questions in interviews that they had a tough time with, and I got a good amount of those that came in. So we start with those. The first one I got was, what do people really want to hear from Tell Me About Yourself?
Can I answer that?
Please.
I've been coaching a lot of the students that I speak to. When they ask that question, they want history. You don't want to go into with, of course, the norm is I'm married, I have kids, or I'm a student. You can say you're a student, but I would focus on your skill set. What you want to do, the purpose of that interview is to explain your skill set, sell your skill set, let them get to know your personality and who you are, so you can be transparent when speaking to them. Tell me about yourself, your personal life. You want to keep that personal. We don't want them to focus on that and judge you, make a decision on hiring you based off your personal life. Again, you want to sell your skill set, and that's the purpose and time to do that.
Mm-hmm. Darren?
I would say when they're talking about that, I would give them a rundown of things that you have accomplished and done. So for a case example, when I didn't have any experience and I was interviewed for that, I kind of basically gave them a step-by-step of what I did at school. So I was, I was on the football team. I was captain of special teams. I was, president of my fraternity. I was president of another organization, and what that process was and what interested me in that. And then I pretty much told the story of how I got to them and why I wanted to come to them and why I wanted to work and how that fit. And that's kind of the way that I answered that question, as opposed to, I come from, background, military kid, that type of deal. I kind of told my story of where I was at now.
Absolutely. And Darren, I love that piece about the accomplishment. So if you were the kid that had a lemonade stand at, age 5, you were, delivering newspapers or, working, early on and had that entrepreneurial spirit, those are definitely experiences that you would want to highlight.
Yep.
Another question that I got was, how do you answer the strengths and weaknesses question? What do you want to see from both of those sides?
Okay, I'll jump on that one. So everything is a strength. Even when you mention your weakness, it still can be perceived as your strength. So for example, you may say, hey, I am, great at communication. And working with others. I think that is one of my strengths. As a weakness or something that I would love to improve on, then that's when you mention something that the company does or something that the company is known for or one of their training programs where you think you can learn this particular thing from them. So I knew Enterprise was great for starting people off in their career and giving them structure and showing them how to run a business. So I use that as, I'm good for communication, I'm good for leadership, but I believe in, in having that experience and having the structure and the tools to be able to train somebody underneath me and make them better and bring what I bring to the table out. That actually helps, that would help me, prepare myself and put me in a better situation. Because that's the only thing in my career that I have not done yet. So if I had to say a weakness, that's what my weakness would necessarily be. It's not necessarily a super weakness. It's just basically something that you don't have that you would like to obtain from the company.
No, that's a great perspective, Darren. And I think the other thing that hiring managers are listening for is really self-awareness. Do you know what you're good at? Do you know what you're not great at? It's really about self-awareness and words that we're hearing now a lot is transparency, authenticity, vulnerability,
confidence.
Exactly. So it's being able to say, here's what I'm really great at, here's what I love to do in school, or, here's what my favorite classes or projects were. And here's what here's were the ones that I showed up and I did the class. But again, it's that opportunity to learn and grow. And at the very core of that question, people want to know if you're coachable.
Yes.
Are you willing to take feedback? Are you willing to enact upon that feedback? Because I've read statistics that, the reason most new hires fail is because they're not willing to take feedback.
Yeah.
And it's that coachability piece that the managers are really looking for. Is this somebody that I can invest in and grow and develop? And are they going to take it to heart? So thank you for that question.
Yeah, very good.
Cool. Another question I got, and I know it's something as career counselors we get asked a bunch this question. How would you answer the question when, if you're getting asked how much money you're expecting to make? So if you're getting asked about salary requirements, how do you answer that question without sounding awkward?
I can answer. Well,
$1,000,000.
I didn't hear you, Darren.
You tell them you want $1 million. And then
I would.
you start from there and tell them you're willing to negotiate.
To keep the humor in there, right? But from a recruit, it depends on who's asking me, and this is me speaking on a personal level. If it's the recruiter, I'm gonna be honest. But if it's the hiring manager, which in some cases they will ask, in some cases they won't, I just kind of explain to them, where I've been, what I've done, and I'm open. If you can kind of just go around and just tell them you're open, and you can explain to them what you want, but tell them it could possibly be negotiable. It's negotiable.
Yep.
And when they hear that word, that makes a big difference.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then there's also, sorry, Shir, you want to go?
Okay.
We're playing hopscotch. You can also go by Glassdoor. So like Glassdoor, a lot of times you can do your research on the position and just kind of see if there's a range out there. Or there's this great thing called LMCSI, I believe it is .com. But basically it's the state's census for businesses, and it lets you know what the average salary of whatever position you're applying for by the state and the Texas Commission, Workforce Commission. It lets you know what the average is. So you want to be somewhere in that realm. So I would say if it's me, I'm doing my research from those two, the Texas Workforce Commission, and then I'm also doing the research on Glassdoor to see kind of like, hey, where, has anybody mentioned the range before? Because most of the time they'll have a pretty good range in there. And then also ask the recruiter, like, hey, what's the range? You don't have to give me the exact amount, but what's the range? And they'll give you the range most of the time.
And how you can preface that answer is, to Darren's point, do your research. Salary.com is also a great tool. And again, some of those are inflated, but if you do look at the Texas labor market data, you can even be as specific as where you want to live. So Houston versus Dallas versus Austin, those positions may be slightly different. So do your research and just say, based on my research on the position, I believe this position is going to be, from, I don't know, pick a number, 45 to 55,000 or 55 to 65, whatever the case may be. And that's when you say, but I'm open, to learning and growing with the organization, because at that point it's about getting the opportunity and getting your foot in the door. On the candidate side, when I'm talking with candidates, my question to them is, based on your background and experience, what range are you looking at? Just to make sure that we're on the same page. Every position does have a salary range or a salary grade. Every manager has a budget, and they try to be somewhere in the middle. Some managers, just by training and development, they're, on the high end of the scale. Some are on the low end of the scale. To Darren's point, some may have more flexibility than others in terms of working with that range. Some industries, it may be standard to say, well, we start everybody out at, X, whatever that number is. And then where you go from there is up to you. So I think just, first of all, doing your homework and being aware. It'd be great if everybody could, get $1 million a year. But the reality is just be familiar with the industries that you're looking at and really do your homework.
Cool, thank you. The last one of these questions I got asked was, how do you answer the "why should I hire you" question?
Because I'm me. I'm awesome. No, that particular question is just based on, okay, I would in turn ask the question, hey, I want to get to know you as a manager, so what do you think you're missing in your team? And hopefully I fill that spot. Once they mention, hey, what do I feel like I'm missing in a team? Well, let me describe to you, kind of how I fit that.
Mm-hmm. And I think the core of that question is something Marietta touched on previously, is confidence.
Confidence, yep.
They want to hear, do you believe in yourself? Are you who you say you are? Are you willing to work hard? For some of these positions, managers may look at, 20, 30 candidates, and have gone through even more resumes. And again, from the manager's perspective, that position, that job is an investment in their team. And one of the things that, is really most key to that manager's success is investing in the right person for the right role at the right time. And just like you wouldn't make a snap decision on a significant investment, in your case, whether it's a school or a car or, a place to live, you're not going to make a snap decision. You want to do your homework, and you want to be sure that you're making a good investment. So that's the perspective that that manager's looking at. And they're looking for a couple things. So they're looking for fit to role. Can this person do this job? Fit to team. Is this somebody who's going to come in and be a great team player and, Darren's point, fill a gap that I may have or make my team better? Fit to manager. Is this somebody I feel comfortable with? Can I have good conversations from a coaching perspective? Because my role as a manager is to coach, grow, and develop my team. Is this somebody that I feel that's going to take that feedback wisely and be conscious of that? And then fit to the organization. How well does this person align with who we are as a company and where we're growing? And then, fit to culture. Are they a good culture fit? If we're a very, hard driven, fast forward, fast paced culture, and, you're not that, or the opposite, are they very laid back and mellow and you're a hard charging, get it done kind of person? You're going to be really frustrated in that environment. So that question is really about fit. So while it is about you to a certain degree, it's really about fit to the role. And I'll tell you one that I wish somebody would have told me when I was starting out is the most important decision you'll make coming out and looking at positions is picking your manager. Because that person is going to be either your biggest advocate and your biggest supporter or your worst nightmare.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if we took a survey of everybody, everybody's had their fair share of great managers and not so great managers. And so I think that's really a critical decision. And I know when I came out of school, I wasn't thinking about that because I just needed a job. I just wanted to get hired. But really, it's an investment of your time. If you're going into a full-time position, at a minimum, you're looking at 2,080 hours of your life. And usually the first year of any job, you're going to put in more effort and more time because you want to make that good impression. You want to build those relationships and connections. So, your investment is the time and effort. The company's investment is the effort, energy, and resources, and obviously the financial piece. But we know from statistics that 70% of employee engagement is tied to your relationship with your direct line manager. So if you don't feel that connection to that manager, you may believe in the company, they may have amazing benefits, but if you don't have that connection with your first line manager, it's going to be a really difficult role. And you're not going to stay. You're not going to feel connected. You're not going to feel engaged.
Or even valued.
Exactly. So definitely a great question. Thank you for that.
Yeah. A quick career counselor piece on that. I always say when I do interview presentations, if you have not met the person that's going to be your direct manager, you definitely can ask to do that. So if you go through an interview process and you haven't met that person, you have all the right in the world to say, can I meet who's going to be my direct supervisor? Because it's really important, as they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So just to change gears a little bit, we got a few questions about LinkedIn. How can students connect with people on LinkedIn or find people to connect with on LinkedIn since they're not necessarily networking in person anymore? And then once you mentioned groups, once they're going into groups, how do they build relationships with people in those groups?
Darren, you want to take that one?
So if the first thing I would do would be involved in the groups, like follow as many. So I would take it kind of like a list. So if I have the top 50 companies that I want to go work for, the first thing I'm doing is following those companies. Second thing, after I'm following those companies, I'm seeing what they're interested in or what they're participating in. So if there's any group boards or discussion boards, then I'm joining those group boards and discussion boards. And then after that, I'm going ahead and I'm reaching out to those particular people who may be managers at the job that I want, or who may be involved in the hiring process. So your supervisor, your manager, or the person that's actually in the job that you're in. Or it could be a U of H student, you never know. but those are the people that I'm reaching out to first. And a lot of times you'll be able to see who those people are by the way that they comment. There's a sneaky thing that you can do because recruiters are always searching and watching. You can always type someone's name in and go on image. And when you go on an image, their information will pull up on their LinkedIn profile, and you can find their URL address that way. So Sandy Smith, she'll have a nice picture up there, and it'll say her LinkedIn, and it'll say her URL, and you can always send a message that way if you cannot find that person.
Can I also add to that? I would also add to that, just to piggyback, is when you're when you see the recruiters, or you see a hiring manager, or you see a representative of that company, once they connect with you and they accept your invitation, backdoor and send them a message telling them thank you and attach your resume. And in that message, you could just tell them, thank you for accepting my LinkedIn. If you have if you have an internship program, or if you have an open position in whatever field you're interested in, please feel free to review my resume. What you've done was you've thanked them, you've, in a way, you've marketed yourself, and you've also put your resume in front of them. They have one or two options to either respond and say, oh, we don't have anything right now, but we may have something, and they'll tell you when, or they may tell you they don't have anything. And then at the same time, you've connected with them. And then when they give you a date of when they possibly may have an internship program or a position, maybe a week or two or a couple of weeks before that date, send them another reminder, and keeping that linked, that connection ongoing. This way you've established a relationship, you put yourself out there, and you've marketed yourself. And then as you see who they're connected with, you can start connecting with some of those individuals that are also a part of the company, because you never know, you may end up linking up with the hiring manager. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Absolutely. And another great way to establish and maintain those connections, even if they're not hiring right now, is just what's going on in the industry. You know, and asking questions. You know, I see this is happening, you know, how is your company responding to this? You know, whether it's the, you know, Houston's a huge oil and gas market. So, you know, how is, you know, their company being impacted by the downturn? What are their plans to, you know, come back, and what does that look like? So again, showing interest, maintaining a relation with that individual and that organization, because you never know. And again, in today's world, you know, 6 months from now, there could be a whole new set of positions that didn't even exist prior to going into COVID. So you never want to know. And, you know, you want that manager or that connection to say, you know, I connected with somebody at U of H and they were super sharp, and let's take a look at them and just see if it's something that they would be interested in. And, you know, that might be your foot in the door in that case.
Right.
Well, thank you. So a question I got was, given the current situation and uncertain times, can you talk about what it's like, or what advice you'd have for students entering the job market right now? What trends have you seen? Anything that you think could be helpful with looking for a job at the moment?
You know, definitely a question on everybody's mind right now. I think, first of all, patience and empathy are huge. Companies are dealing, you know, with COVID and the pandemic in a variety of different ways, you know, both financially and, you know, from a mental health perspective of their own employees. So you don't know what that company's really going through. And so just being polite, kindness matters right now on all sides. So it might take that person a little while to respond back to you. So patience, continue to follow up, continue to apply to positions that are applicable. And I think also to be open to new opportunities. You know, things are different for a lot of people. You know, I know here at the credit union, our leadership team is very focused on, you know, protecting our employees, protecting our members, and protecting our business right now. So we are having, even, at the credit union, to look at positions a different way, because we don't know what the market looks like. So some of the positions that may have been out there before are, now not there, but there may be new opportunities coming up. So I think definitely remaining open. Everybody's going to have their down days, but, try to remain positive.
Yeah.
When you're connecting with different companies and different representatives, connect with different associations, whether that's an accounting association or a finance association or marketing association. I know all of those organizations have student chapters. That's another great way to, still remain involved and still build those networks to find out what's going on in those different industries from a job perspective. You're always marketing your brand, so be mindful of your social media and what you're posting and what's public and what's private. I know that seems kind of second nature now, but people still forget. So I think, just being very mindful of going into the job market and being patient and open and leading with empathy.
Cool, thank you. We're pretty close to the end of our hour, so I'm going to close with one last question. How can students prepare for either an internship or a full-time job with TDECU? And also, end from each of you, what's one piece of advice for students as they're looking towards recruiting this fall?
Yeah. Marietta, you want to take that one?
I would say, and I have a lot going on. When I get excited, I just rattle on. But I would say one of the things, just keep building your skill set. Just stay focused on putting yourself out there and connecting with individuals. And like Sherry said earlier, try to stay positive. It's tough right now during these uncertain times, but hang in there and always remember, if nothing else, and I know it sounds like a cliche, but you're sitting in a seat to where you have that choice to make that decision if that's a manager who you want to work with or work for. The last part of that question you asked, if you can ask it again for me.
Sure, it was just one piece of advice for giving for the fall, and also how can students best prepare for an internship or a job with you all at TDECU?
I would say just continue to watch our, what I would say is keep, watch our billboard, watch our our job board, stay connected with us, because as Sherry stated, sometimes we have positions that we haven't posted yet. However, we know eventually some may come back and some may not. What I've been doing and what all of us have been doing right now is just having conversations with individuals that we know may align with certain roles. And even though the positions are not posted yet, we're just kind of holding on to them in our back pocket. So when that opportunity comes for us to post a position or it opens up, we can go ahead and move forward. As far as the internship program, we never know when an internship will come about, because the leadership team, they have discussions. And what they do is typically, and I'm speaking on behalf of TDECU, they will then notify Sherry. Sherry will then let us know what to look out for. So we really never know, but that's why it's so important to just kind of stay connected. Stay connected, whether it's with us or any company. I would say stay connected with those recruiters. But again, guys, listen, hang in there. There's always that one opportunity when you least expect that you will step into an opportunity to either land a position, an internship, or even just an opportunity to connect with someone who can lead you to an individual that can help you.
And I think to be open, sometimes the best place to start is on the front line.
Yeah.
So while you may think that, being a teller or a, what we call a service champion or a member champion, isn't necessarily where you thought you'd start, it's a great way to get in and learn the business. Learn and grow and develop, with the organization over time. And then, that leads to other opportunities. I think that's the biggest key is just really being open to new and different opportunities.
Absolutely.
I would say become a creator and create value. So take this time with COVID-19 and all the craziness that is going on to create, to go up and look at new softwares to solve problems. People hire people who solve problems. So I would focus on small businesses or medium-sized businesses that are looking for, you know, they may not even be looking, but if you can find a problem, or if there's a problem that you know that's going on in the industry and you can solve that problem, hey, maybe they use you as a consultant. Maybe they bring you on for a project. It's tons of different ways to press open the door. Don't wait. Just create and build content. That would be the best thing that I would say. And I know I probably sound like Gary Vee, but I'm serious. That's the best thing to do, because in this particular time, the people who are able to be creative and create solutions are the people who are going to win coming out of this, because it's not going to last forever. So eventually when we come out, it's going to be different. So those who were able to add value and those who were able to create, they're going to be put in roles to where they're going to want them to solve more problems. So just remember that. That was the best advice I got on my first internship from a guy that had my same name. I'll never forget him. His name was Darren. But he was just like, look, the higher up you get, the more they ask you to solve problems. So if you want to be good at anything, figure out how to solve problems, and they'll hire you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you spending the hour with us today. We have our next Recruiters Get Real session next Thursday at 1 o'clock with Cindy De La Garza from Enterprise Holdings. But thank you so much for our representatives from TDECU, and thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having
Thanks,
us.
everyone. Take care.
Thank you, guys.